and so, but when you guys were in school, because it's different when you when I interviewed, say, Melvin Riley Jr. and he was part of Ready for the World, and they looked at bands, but for you guys in those days, I mean, I think Cameo, the Gap band. I mean, so Cameo, maybe yeah, the Gap band. I mean, did you have a model of who you were looking at as performers? Because without a band to sort of emulate.
Wow. I think there was a gap in there. I think during that time, like you may or may not know of this group. There was the deal. There was Cameo. There was also a group that my brother was in prior to that called Manchild.
Oh yeah,
Okay, okay, and so Manchild was on some level kind of emulating, taking a look at a lot of these, so many self-contained groups back then. The Barcades were doing their thing back then. So you had Manchild, and of course Manchild was looking at Cameo. But as things moved on and Kenny evolved and he became a member of the deal, then now you're still taking a look at Cameo and the kind of music they're doing. You're taking a look at Prince, because Prince and all of that stuff was starting to, really begin to cook as well. So I was having a conversation with Danny earlier and just thinking about some of the things that they used to do when they got prepared for a show. And sometimes it was like, eyeliners and stuff that they would do, fix up makeup. That was all part of what that period was. It was all a part of that what that period was, doing those things that they thought were part of what would help sell you. And so at that point, for Keith and I, we weren't looking from a self-contained perspective. We were more of a stand-up male vocal group. And so that means separate and apart. We have a band that would back us, but we were the entity. For Kenny and LA and D and my goodness, I'm about to go blank.
KO,
Carlos,
yeah,
KO and Carlos, Stick, all of them, they were a self-contained unit and they made the sound collectively together. Whereas Keith and I and Melvin, we were standalone. What we were doing while that was going on, we were busy going to late night little shows in the Indianapolis market and doing gong shows. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, yes, I've heard of the Gong Show. Yes.
It's kind of like a little competition,
Yeah.
and you go in here and somebody sings and this person sings and you're really singing. You're up there and you're singing. You're trying to see who's going to do the best job and win the prize, take the money. And that's kind of like what we did in the interim. But really, at that time, I think we got to a period where everybody kind of got into their careers in terms of what they were doing as being adults. Now moving on into your lifestyle and working a 9 to 5, doing those kinds of things, and that's kind of like where we evolved to. But as time went on, Kenny and LA persevered, continued to write and produce, and had opportunities out on the West Coast, which is what really opened the doors for them to start really having an impact on other young artists, because at the time, Solar Records and Dick Griffey gave them an opportunity to start producing, and that's kind of what it was. So things started cooking for them, and meanwhile, back at the camp, we working on 9 to 5s. Keith's in Chicago. I'm in Indianapolis. Melvin might have been in Cincinnati for a while too, and I recall calling my brother Kenny, and I said to him, "Hey man, I got to get out of here. I don't care I don't care what you have me do. I'll load equipment. I'll push. I don't care. Just let me know." He said, "Okay, just okay. I hear you. Be patient. And he gave me some words of advice. He said, "Well, right now we're working on some things. I can't say exactly what it is, but I would tell you, if you got bills or whatever it is, pay all your bills down. Just be ready. And that's when it was. And so that was a word that I shared with Melvin, and I shared with Keith. And I said, "Hey, you still want to do this thing?" And Keith said, "Yeah." I don't know if it was hell, yeah, but it was, yeah. Uh, you know, and eventually that's what came. And we were prepared. We were prepared to go, and that meant drop what you were doing and make a career choice, make a decision. And that's what we were prepared to do. But we didn't feel like we were just taking a big risk. We were taking the best risk I think anybody could do for an act unknown to go and have an opportunity to sign with a major label because of the reputation and the level of success that both Kenny and LA were experiencing and the rapport and relationships that they were developing. We ultimately signed a deal with Virgin Records. They never saw who we were.
Wow.
They never heard us. None of that. They just figured, hey, if it's LA and Babyface and they got some brothers that sing, we'll sign them, snatch them up. And so we had a deal sight unseen, and that was a good thing.
Now, was it always the three of you, or did in After Seven, yourself, Melvin, and Keith?
And Keith, that was it. Yep.
Okay, so you always settled on the three, like a Levert, or did you think of it wasn't a thing like we need the harmonies and?
It never became that. It was the 1, 2, 3. That was it.
Yeah. And then I mean, as I said, it worked perfectly. But then did at those times, how did you guys decide on vocally who has what parts? Was that a sort of a hard thing? Who's going to be the main lead singer? We just back, or how did that?
That was a Babyface thing. That was Kenny knew our voices. So Kenny was he was a songwriter and a producer, and so. And, and LA was a part of it too, but Kenny, being our brother, really knew our voices, and he kind of almost already had in his head how that was going to work. So we were really, we were clay and they were the potters. We were there with a willingness to do whatever it took to have this opportunity. And so it was about taking direction at that point for us. And it was through their direction is how we kind of really kind of formulated what the sound of After Seven was, because again, it had been a while since we had sung anything together, but we were still eager and anxious for the opportunity. So when it came, we hopped on a plane, and next thing you know, we were like the Beverly Hillbillies. We were out in LA. We were out in LA, and it started just like that. We got out there second week in November of 1988.
Wow.
Is that it right, Keith? 1988?
Yeah.
Keith, was it hard to just leave Chicago and just say, okay, let's give this a try, or?
Well, I didn't look at it as being hard. I looked at it as Kevon was mentioning, with the amount of success that Babyface and LA were having, it felt like a good bet that, we knew we had a sound. We didn't know what we'd sound like on a record, but we knew we had something that people were interested in just from the times when we got on stage around Indianapolis, and we win a lot of those contests, and the ladies would give us a lot of love. But it was those times that made us think that it's a great chance if we got the opportunity. And with their success, they were, Roses Are Red, the Mac Band.
Yeah, the Mac Band. Yeah.
Oh, he's learned.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there was Jimmy and Terry, there was LA and Babyface, and then there was Teddy Riley towards the latter part of the 80s. And so you had, from the Boys, you had Karen White, you had all the stuff. So
right.
the Whispers and stuff. Yeah. So it was, so, I mean, as I said, for me, when you came out with the first single, Heat of the Moment, because we didn't, as I said, in Nigeria, we'd get an odd copy of Black Beat and Right On, but it was easy to sort of hear a song and say, oh, this sounds very similar to the Boys. It sounds, so you could tell sonically it had that same passion and same sort of thing. And So oddly enough, up tempos did much better in Nigeria in those late 80s and early in the 80s than sort of ballads. So hence, apart from Superwoman, most up tempos did extremely well. Hey everyone, I want to thank you for being part of Halftime Chats. This new update is really about our membership, and I'm really excited to be able to fully launch the membership page. There will be things like full interviews from day one. As soon as the interview drops, you get access to it without any ads on it. There'll be some exclusive member-only videos that will just be some behind-the-scenes stuff and some other things that we will never be broadcast. For some members, you can be able to get actually 2 interviews because I do have a backlog of almost 7 or 8 interviews that I don't even know when I'm going to be able to broadcast them. So you're able to get at least some of those up front, and some just behind the scenes stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that I have never been able to talk about or release. For anyone else, you know what, the videos will still be the same over a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on how long it is. So everything stays the same. The polls stay the same. The community chats, the community stuff stays the same. But I think with the membership stuff, I'm able to add a little bit more and invest a lot more time and energy in really supporting the members. So I do hope you come on that ride with me. I appreciate the support, and this will just help me continue to invest in taking things to the next level. Take care.
I begin to